Skövde, Sweden, 1907. 5 men sit in a workshop above a foundry. A 1-cylinder, 3-horsepower compression ignition engine for fishing boats sits on the bench in front of them. It needs a name. The 5 men argue for weeks and cannot agree, so they name it after themselves. 5 men, Penta. That engine, the B1, was simple enough for any fisherman with a wrench to rebuild at anchor. By 1916, Fritz Egnell bought the company and renamed it AB Pentaverken. The engines went to fishing boats, cargo vessels, and coastal traders across Scandinavia. In 1925, a man named Assar Gabrielsson walked into the Pentaverken workshop. He was building a new automobile company called Volvo and needed a reliable engine. Penta delivered a 4-cylinder, 28-horsepower side-valve motor. It became the heart of the very first Volvo car, the OV4, in 1927. 10 years later, Volvo bought Penta outright. A marine engine company, founded by 5 men who built for fishermen, became a subsidiary of a conglomerate now worth over 40 billion euros. 119 years after that first workshop in Skövde, the company. Those 5 men started requires a $1,500 proprietary laptop, a $400 annual software subscription, and an appointment with an authorized dealer to clear a fault code on a diesel that was actually built by Kubota. The engine still works. The company changed. If you own a Volvo Penta marine diesel or are about to buy a boat with one, how much of your repair access has already been signed away in the fine print? Drop your experience in the comments. And subscribe to Yachts and Boats, because this is the kind of forensic case we build every week. The D-Series marine diesels from Volvo Penta are legitimately good engines. The D4, the D6, the D8, smooth power delivery, common rail fuel injection, turbocharging that stays predictable at cruise RPM. Volvo's own engineers designed the onboard performance system, a pod drive with contra-rotating propellers and joystick docking that change the way boats handle at close quarters. The mechanical engineering is not the problem. The problem is what sits between the engine and the owner. Volvo Penta calls it EVC, Electronic Vessel Control. EVC is a drive-by-wire system that replaces every physical cable on the boat with electronic servos routed through a central brain. Throttle, gear shift, steering, trim. Every function passes through the EVC network before it reaches the engine. The system works beautifully when every sensor in the network is healthy. The boat feels like it reads your mind. A single sensor failure changes everything. The system disables functions you did not know were connected. A marine mechanic with 25 years of experience described the architecture on a public forum. Boats arrive at a location, he wrote, with a code that cannot be cleared. A factory technician must be present on site with a factory computer. That is the only way to get the engine running again. He named Volvo Penta and similar European engine brands as the companies responsible. A $50 steering position sensor fails on the starboard hull. EVC registers the failure and disables throttle, shift, and steering on that side. All controls are interconnected within the system. A marine mechanic on the public forum Just Answer explained the architecture directly. A failure in any single component, he wrote, can trigger a code that disables other components. 30 to 40 individual components sit inside the EVC network. Any one of them can cascade. The engine runs. The prop spins. The boat cannot be controlled. A delivery crew flying a new IPS-equipped boat from Maine to Florida was forced to stop 3 separate times for Volvo Penta service failures. 3 flights home. Weeks of waiting for qualified technicians and parts on a brand new product. One owner on the trawler forum documented every leg of that delivery and the total downtime. The nearest authorized Volvo Penta diesel technician is at a dealership in Fort Lauderdale or Auckland or Gibraltar, not at the anchorage where your boat sits. Volvo Penta's own support page states it directly. Most repairs require specific function tests. These tests require special tooling and diagnostic equipment. Only accessible by authorized dealers. The tooling they are referring to is called VODIA, Volvo Onboard Diagnostics Interface Application. It runs on a proprietary hardware unit called VOCOM II. VODIA can read and clear fault codes, reprogram engine parameters, update ECU firmware, and calibrate control levers. Without VODIA, you can see that a fault exists. You cannot fix it, you cannot clear it, you cannot override it. VODIA is not sold to independent mechanics. Volvo Penta operates a network of over 3,500 authorized dealers worldwide. Those dealers receive factory training, factory software access, and factory technical bulletins. Independent marine mechanics receive nothing. No workshop manuals, no diagnostic access, no software updates. Volvo Penta's own support page frames this as a feature. A trained Volvo Penta technician, the page reads, has extensive experience, training, and access to all workshop manuals and support. The word all is doing the work in that sentence. If the authorized dealer has access to all support, the independent mechanic by definition has access to none. One boat owner posted on the Tugnuts forum in October 2022 that his dealer was certified to work on Volvo Penta gasoline engines and owned the VODIA software. Volvo prohibited that same dealer from using VODIA on diesel engines. The dealer had the tool. Volvo blocked the function. The same owner had been waiting 2 years to get a routine software update on his 2015 Cutwater 28. The only qualified diesel technician in his area could not hire or train staff fast enough to meet demand. The ledger does not lie. The lockout is expensive by design. A complete VODIA plus VOCOM II diagnostic kit costs between $800 and $1,500 from a legitimate source. Annual software renewal runs $200 to $400 on top of that. A standalone handheld VODIA unit costs $1,500 to $2,200. Third-party tools exist. Jaltest, Rinder's Diacom Marine, and Texa all offer partial Volvo Penta coverage. They can read fault codes, monitor live sensor data, and perform some calibrations. They cannot reprogram the ECU. They cannot update firmware. They cannot perform the specific calibrations that VODIA locks behind authorization. One diagnostic tool company estimated that third-party platforms now cover 95% of dealer-level tasks. That remaining 5% is the 5% that strands boats, and the extraction does not stop at diagnostics. Volvo Penta parts carry a markup that their own customers describe in language normally reserved for criminal enterprises. On the YBW Boating Forum, an owner documented a specific purchase. He walked into an authorized Volvo Penta dealer and asked for an oil filter for his engine. The dealer placed a MAN M77 filter on the counter. It sat in a MAN box with a MAN part number. The only addition was a Volvo Penta sticker on the side. The price was £20 British. The next day, the same owner walked into an auto parts store and bought 3 identical MAN M77 filters for £10 total, $3.30 per filter. The Volvo version cost 6 times more for the same filter in the same box with an added sticker. Scale that across every filter, every seal, every impeller, every service interval, across every one of the 3,500. Authorized dealers. Volvo Penta operates worldwide. The markup is sharper when you learn where the engines actually come from. Many Volvo Penta diesel engines are not manufactured by Volvo Penta. The blocks come from Deutz AG in Germany, from Kubota, from Perkins. These are industrial diesel engines built on assembly lines that also supply tractors and generators. Volvo badges them, installs the EVC electronics, and sells them under the Volvo Penta name at Volvo Penta prices. The same Kubota base engine that powers a compact excavator sits in the bilge of a 40-foot sailboat wrapped in a parts ecosystem that charges 6 times the commodity price for a filter that fits both machines. One owner on the YBW forum replaced his failed Volvo Penta engine with a Beta Marine. Beta engines use Kubota blocks with openly available parts at standard industrial prices. He never looked back. One Sailing Anarchy forum member called the spare parts system, in his words, akin to organized crime. Another owner on the Sailboat Owners Forum reported that one of Volvo's largest parts dealers in the United States told him directly that Volvo only cares about shipping containers of sailboat engines to original equipment manufacturers. The aftermarket support for Volvo sailboat engines, the dealer said, is absolutely horrid. The same source described Volvo Penta's parts room for sailboat engines at their North American facility as approximately 10 feet by 10 feet, mostly full of filters. One owner waited 6 weeks for a $3 part. How much of this markup covers engineering quality, and how much covers the cost of keeping you inside the dealer network? That is the number Volvo Penta never publishes. The pattern is not accidental. The worst case is not the lockout. The worst case is when Volvo Penta abandons the system entirely. The TAMD75PA ran an electronic diesel control unit called the EDC. It was the predecessor to EVC. Volvo Penta discontinued the EDC. The company stopped manufacturing the unit. No replacement was offered, no conversion kit, no migration path. As of October 2025, a boat owner in North Carolina with a pair of TAMD75PA engines posted on the Cummins Marine Forum that he had been chasing intermittent EDC failures for months. The only permanent solution he could find was a prototype electronic replacement being developed by a single engineer in the Netherlands. The unit is called the Damarine NEDC. It does not exist as a finished product. Volvo Penta sold the engine. Volvo Penta sold the electronic control system that runs the engine. Volvo Penta stopped making the electronic control system. The owner now depends on a Dutch prototype to keep running engines that Volvo marketed as flagship products. The 5 men in Skövde would not recognize this company. Volvo Penta's own support page includes one more line that matters. It says that performing your own repair on a warranted engine voids the warranty. The page advises owners to always ensure the engine is older with an expired warranty before attempting self-repair. Read that again. The manufacturer of the engine is telling you that fixing your own property is a privilege they revoke at their discretion. The financial consequence of all this is visible in the brokerage market. Experienced buyers subtract the cost of a Volvo repower before they make an offer. Forum consensus across multiple boating communities puts the resale penalty on a Volvo Penta-powered sailboat at 20 to 40% below the same hull with a Yanmar. A $300,000 cruiser with twin Volvo D4 engines lists for $260,000 or less. The engines run fine. The math penalizes the brand because the next owner already knows what the diagnostic lockout, the parts markup, and the dealer dependency will cost over 10 years. One Sailing Anarchy member wrote that if he was choosing a new engine, he would go with Yanmar for one reason above all others: Volvo's parts prices. A poster on the Northeast Fishing Forum described asking his marina mechanic for advice. The mechanic pleaded with him not to get a Volvo. Yanmar engines, by contrast, are mechanically simpler. Fewer electronic dependencies. Independent mechanics can diagnose and rebuild most models with standard diesel tools and no manufacturer login. The company builds smaller, fuel-efficient engines designed from the start for environments where sophisticated diagnostic equipment does not exist. The market has spoken. The price is a verdict. That was the cheap part. In February 2026, the state of Delaware introduced House Bill 279, the Delaware Marine Equipment Right to Repair Act. It is the first right to repair bill in any U.S. state specifically targeting marine equipment. The bill's CO sponsors are bipartisan: Representative Rich Collins, a Republican from Millsboro, and Senator Russell Huxtable, a Democrat from Harbison. Collins said publicly that Delawareans have a long history of repairing their own cars, boats, and tractors. Even as technology changes, he said, that heritage should not disappear. Huxtable called the current system a monopolized repair model that drives up cost and limits choices for boat owners. The bill would require manufacturers of boats, engines, and marine equipment to provide fair and reasonable access to the parts, tools, software, and documentation needed to conduct repairs. That single sentence dismantles VODIA as a dealer-exclusive tool. It opens the EVC calibration functions to independent shops. It strips the legal basis for voiding a warranty because an owner changed his own oil filter. The bill has not passed. Whether it survives the legislative process is an open question, but it exists. It has named sponsors. It uses the word marine in the title. The automotive right to repair movement has been fighting this same fight for 14 years. Massachusetts passed the first automotive law in 2012. Maine's took effect in 2025. Marine equipment was never covered. Delaware is drawing the line at the waterline. 5 men named an engine after themselves because they could not agree on anything better. 119 years later, the company built on their name charges 6 times the market rate for an oil filter, locks the diagnostic software behind a dealer paywall, discontinues the control units it sold as flagship products, and tells you that fixing your own engine voids your warranty. The engine is still excellent. The question is whether you are allowed to own it in any way that matters. Subscribe to Yachts and Boats. We follow the money so you can follow the water.